everyone, my name is Gregory Scott and I'm going to reveal the secret meanings of the tarot cards to you in this video. Each card has a very standard set of meanings associated with it. So for instance, the Wheel of Fortune represents good luck. It means being at a crossroads in your life. It means positive change, and it means that you're at the beginning of something really positive and new. Those are the basic meanings that are associated with each of the cards, and each card has a set of meanings. You can find out about those by reading books on the tarot. A good one is Tarot for Beginners by Joan Bunning. I teach a course on tarot. You can have a look at that on my website. I give you each of the meanings of the cards, and I also teach you how to read the cards, but you can also just look at the cards and go via the kind of visual clues and the meanings and pick them up that way. So I'm not going to look at these basic kind of meanings. What I'm going to look at is the secret meanings that I've discovered in the years that I've worked with these cards, and some of these meanings are quite unusual and out there. But really, the whole point of having additional information and secret meanings is that you add another string to your bow, and the more information you have, the more accurate your reading is going to be, and the more nuanced your messages will be. So we're not just talking about giving really bog standard, really surface level, really superficial answers. The tarot is a wonderful skill that really allows you to give some really detailed answers, and I'll show you the kind of answers I'm talking about by going through these cards. So the first card is the Three of Pentacles, and that is representative of angelic messages coming through and signs appearing in your life and doing work that is divinely ordained. So this card has a really strong link with the divine realm, and when this comes up in readings, you can always realize that something else is at work here, something else is influencing this situation. This card represents energy healing. We're talking Reiki, spiritual healing, body work, I think at a stretch even things like acupuncture and reflexology. But anything to do with channeling energy to bring about healing in another person. The Chariot represents the occult, so kind of the mysteries, the mystery schools, and life after death. The Hermit represents Jesus and Jesus consciousness, and this is an interesting one because it depends on the situation. If someone is coming to you and is saying, I come from a very traditional, very oppressive kind of religious background, and I'm trying to make a decision, and this card comes up, it really indicates that the religious beliefs are an issue there, or that actual faith needs to be consulted to overcome this situation. But it also can mean that the figure of Jesus, the light of the world, is present in this situation, and it's a blessing, and it's something you can trust, and it's divine. The Tower is very clear because it represents earthquakes, and if you're doing a reading kind of predicting the future in terms of your area, so a reading that's really based around, I don't know, the weather or the environment, and this card comes up, you can really expect earthquakes or major upheavals. The Judgment card represents the afterlife, and it represents the other side. If a question is being asked, which is quite common in readings, is there anything else I need to know? And this card comes up, it represents that someone from the other side is trying to make contact, and a message is wanting to come through. And that's often important because when people are aware of that, they can intuitively just open that channel, because a lot of people have that but unconsciously or just subconsciously shut that off and never open up to that side of things. And sometimes it's as simple as saying one of your relatives is wanting to bring something through for you, that opens it up for people, and they can then hear those messages themselves. This is another physical one, and this represents ley lines. Ley lines are they're similar to nerve cells in the body, but just applied to the planet. So it's the kind of connecting cells that connect different places on this planet, and when you walk across one or when you get in touch with one, you can actually feel the energy. There's a really powerful one in Glastonbury in this country. So this is a little bit more obscure. I don't really know how this would come about, but again, it's another string to your bow, and you never know the kind of questions you're asked and the kind of answers that you can give using these cards. Justice represents the Akashic records, and it also represents karma. So this represents the body of work that you've accumulated through your different incarnations. Again, if the question is something like, why do my relationships never work? And this card comes up, it can represent that by taking a trip to the Akashic records, which the Akashic records are basically like a spiritual library that hold every piece of information about you. And you can access those in meditations. There are guided meditations on those. You can do that yourself. You can just intend to go visit the Akashic records and look at some of this information. So that's one possible answer. The other one is karma. So it's a karmic cycle that you may need to change your actions if you're getting consistent negative outcomes. This is a wonderful one. The King of Wands represents, and brace yourself here, he represents aliens, UFOs, and alien abductions. So it really opens things up. You know, any question that's even remotely kind of out there, and the King of Wands appears, kind of represents or colors the whole thing with the presence of extraterrestrial visitors or people not local to your area, and it really adds a whole nother element. Okay, and similarly, the secret message of the devil here also includes some of these otherworldly presences. Represents totems, so spirit guides, animal guides, represents familiars. They're also known by mythical things like vampires, werewolves, witchcraft, anything that has to do with creating negativity in the physical world. And I don't think vampires are real on a physical level. I don't think they actually exist, but on an emotional and spiritual level, they most certainly exist. And there are people who will drain your energy, who you'll feel drained by. There are people, like werewolves, who completely transform and become very, very sensitive during the full moon period, and who become very aggressive. And there are also people who seem to be able to just make things happen in their world. So we're not talking about any of the stereotypical kind of fearful things that come from traditional religious messages. We're talking about negative influences or the creation of negative things in a person's life. So, for instance, does my aunt have my best interest at heart? Is the question, and the devil comes up. If you have this kind of information in the back of your mind, this card comes up, and in your mind's eye you see something like a wolf or a vampire or something like that. Then you have your answer. Then you don't need to question that too much. Okay, this card is wonderful, and this is a really obvious one, but a meaning that people don't really take into account because it's so literal. But I take this into account, and to me this not only means balance as in the traditional general meaning, but it means archangels. And it means Archangel Michael in particular, even though the colors aren't the same, but it represents angelic protection via the kind of highest angelic entities that you can imagine. And again, if you have a question that this fits with, then you can use this. I've got a restraining order against someone. Am I safe? And you get this card, you can understand and know that that person is protected and doesn't need to be fearful or to live in fear. The Four of Swords represents meditation, and it also represents astral projection. So if someone's very in a place of you know, they have a washing machine head, or they're not able to get any kind of peace of mind, and you get this card, a great answer for that person is meditation. You know, it doesn't work for everyone, but when you get this card at that time, you always pick the right card through the law of attraction, then you know that meditation is an answer for that person. And similarly, similar scenario, the Hangman represents yoga and spirituality through physical activity. And that's something that you would never know just by looking at this card. Well, you would, I guess, if you're very creative, but because of the crossed legs there. But I've found in my experience that this is often a prompt for someone to do yoga and to gain a lot of benefits from that practice. Okay, this is a really, really new agey woo-woo one, and the Fool represents the lost continents of Atlantis and Lemuria. I can't even say it. Lemuria? Yes, Lemuria. And those are the kind of mythological continents here that sunk or disappeared out of sight. And again, that's quite an abstract one, but what that means in practice is that, you know, don't be so certain that everything's the way it seems. It kind of, when that Atlantis element comes into things, it's almost like, you know, there are more things between heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, to quote Shakespeare. But it really, the secret meaning here is to open up and to have more fantasy and to be more flexible and to allow for the unknown to come in. This card is really loaded with meanings, and the High Priestess in the general meanings has a lot of meanings, but these secret meanings are great too. So she represents anything to do with the Bible. She represents mediumship, so connecting to spirits on the other side. She represents ghosts, and those are earthbound kind of spirits. She represents any kind of psychic ability, and she represents palmistry, so palm reading. This represents Kabbalah, and it represents Judaism. Kabbalah is, and I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but this definition is just a very basic definition that I've always used. But Kabbalah is kind of Jewish mysticism. So it's the kind of, whereas New Age philosophy is what's kind of unusual to Western society, Kabbalah is what's unusual to Jewish traditional society. And again, this can be very specific, you know. It doesn't just have to be what religion is my new girlfriend going to be, i.e. Jewish, or into Kabbalah, but it can be a little bit more nuanced, and you can use it in a much more informative and subtle way. Okay, this is a wonderful card. The Queen of Cups represents anything to do with crystals and with crystal healing. So again, you know, what is my life purpose? What should I be doing in my spare time? I feel like I have some ability, but how could I use it? The Queen of Cups arrives and is really just a great indicator that there's a wonderful aptitude for crystals and that can be used. The star represents all of those mythical kind of unseen psychic creatures that inhabit the lower spiritual dimensions. So we're talking fairies, we're talking gnomes, we're talking pixies, we're talking all those wonderful kind of not earthbound but spiritual entities that are on the next level up. If we're talking our planets here, and we're talking the Archangels up there, then we're talking the pixies just above us, just there. And see how you go with that, but it could be that a message comes through via that. So for instance, just to think of an example here, you know, it could be that someone is a kind of incarnated fairy, but it could also, when asking about a specific person, but it could also, if someone's talking about behavior, it could mean that, you know, that's an acceptance of their nature. That's what they're like. They have kind of pixie-like qualities. So kind of judge that one, but it's interesting to have that additional meaning to this card. Similarly, the King of Cups rules all kind of mer people, merfolk, mermaids, mermen, all of the underwater kind of realm. And then finally, the Wheel of Fortune. The secret meaning here is reincarnation. And if there's a fear, if there's something that someone is really struggling with that they can't overcome, for instance, you know, walking over a bridge is something really difficult, and you get this card, the likelihood is that it's not a psychological problem, but there could be an element of a past life issue to do with drowning, and that through the process of reincarnation, one of those fears has come through into the current life. So those are the secret meanings revealed. I hope you found some of those interesting, and they give you some added depth when using these cards. I have always found that the more information I have and the more information that comes through, the more accurate I'm able to, the more accurate my readings are, and the more on point the messages are, and that people can make more use of the readings that way. So I hope this enriches your practice with the tarot in some way. If you'd like a private reading with me, you can get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.co.uk. You can click on the tab that has information about me. You can look at the shop where I offer the tarot course. You can also click on readings and look at the different types of readings that I do: tarot, astrology, and numerology. You can find me on Facebook. We've got a bit of a community going on there, facebook.com/GregoryScott444, or you can send me an email. The address is readings@gregoryscott.co.uk.